Now, Human Rights Day 2024, themed Freedom, Justice and Equality, resonates deeply with Nigerians' ongoing human rights challenges. Now, the call for freedom is particularly saddening in a country where freedom of expression and political rights are often threatened. Journalists, activists, and ordinary citizens face censorship, harassment, and violence for speaking out against corruption, human rights abuses, or government policies. Now, the themes for this year of freedom, justice, and equality emphasize the urgent need for Nigeria to create an environment where individuals can express their views openly and peacefully without fear of retaliation. Critics have actually argued that the country's justice system must also be reformed to address widespread corruption, insecurity, and impunity, which undermines the rule of law and accountability. Now, the big question is, will Nigeria's government take concrete steps to ultimately address these challenges and ensure that its citizens' fundamental rights are protected? Well, let's find out. We have our guests with us. First of all, we have our studio guest, Kenny Abiola-Bakare. He's chairman, Lagos State Chapter Civil Liberties Organization. Thank you so much for joining us today on the conversation. And we also have joining us virtually Yahaya Tanko-Baba, Professor of Political Science, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, and Nelson Nnanna-Nwafor, Executive Director of Foundation for Environmental Rights Advocacy and Development, FENRAD. He'll be joining us later. But thank you so much for joining us, Yahaya Baba.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now. Thank you, gentlemen. Now, let's begin with our studio guest, Kenny. Now, Kenny, let's begin with, human rights in Nigeria, especially, with this current administration. There's been so many concerns about, what is actually happening. Let's hear from you. What is your take on, human rights, the challenges being faced in this administration?
Thank you very much. Once again, thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I want to just make a little correction. Yes, I've been the chairman of the Civil Liberty Organization, Lagos State, but I'm the chairman emeritus of the Civil Liberty Organization, Lagos State now. We have a substantive chairman in place now.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Apologies for the confusion and congratulations.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Yeah, human rights level in Nigeria or in our country, to me, is still very low. The awareness, the recognition by the government is still very, very low. There are a lot of things that is happening in this country that have the reflection of fundamental violation or abuse of fundamental human rights. That is not right. The government doesn't even have any stake in protecting the fundamental human violation in Nigeria right now. So what I would say, I'm happy that today is the human rights something in the whole world. What I want to say about it is that the people is just a way of awakening the people to be alive to their human right instinct, so that people will be able to protect themselves from violations of fundamental human rights in Nigeria. So that is exactly what I would just say for now.
Okay. All right, now let's head back to Yahaya. Now, Yahaya, if you can hear me, can you give us or provide an overview of the current state of human rights, in Nigeria, particularly in relation to police brutality, extrajudicial killings, and also unlawful detentions?
Yeah, I think this is quite horrible to begin with. We know human rights issues are central to democracy, they are central to governance, they are even generic things. I mean, they are generic as far as humanity is concerned. And we all know that in Nigeria, the democracy that actually is in place is one version of democracy that do not seem to prioritize the issues of fundamental human rights, and institutions of governance are weak and deliberately, constructed and structured to say undermine the rule of law. We all know that the rule of law is central to democracy, that the equality before the law, supremacy of the law, the fundamental human rights are key to protecting people's rights. But institutions of government, the oppression of institutions of government in Nigeria, you mentioned police brutality, you mentioned extrajudicial killings. You also mentioned in the background the issue of judicial reforms. We know that we never can have human rights, fundamental human rights entrenched in the citizenry without realizing the independence of judiciary. And of course, the fairness of that institution, that scared institution that is structured in a democratic framework to guarantee the protection, the promotion, and the protection of fundamental human rights. Just of recent months back, we have witnessed the mass protest, the bad governance protest. We've seen what had actually transpired. We've seen massive unlawful arrest, persecution, torture, illegal detention, and even shamelessly arraignment of minors in the court for alleged breach of laws. You never can tell how could a whole national institution, like the police institution, could go to that very particular extent of embarrassing the nation, of arresting minors and keeping them in custody for months, and also having the guts to arraign them to produce them before the court of law. If not because of the outcry, the mass outcry in the country, these minors would have lost. Quite a number of them couldn't even stand up in the court because of the extent of starvation and malnourishment they have suffered in police detention. We also truly know that the last institution, which is the hope of the ordinary people in terms of protection and promotion and protection of human rights, judiciary, is one institution that whose public confidence, and trust have eroded over time. The excessive politicization and politicalization of the institution of the judiciary has actually made quite a huge number of Nigerian people to completely lose hope in
okay, Yahaya, you actually just cited, some recent incidences, but the most recent one that's on the lips of everyone now has to do with the arrest and detention of lawyer Dele Farotimi. A lot of human rights groups have actually, cited this particular incident as an example of, government suppression of dissent. Now, what does this case reveal about, the current political climate in Nigeria? All right, we seem to be having network issues with Yahaya. Now let's come back to you, Kenny. Same question, to you on Dele Farotimi's...
Farotimi, the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, that is why I say that let's think of the fundamental human rights in Nigeria. One still need to awaken the Nigerians to let them know exactly their responsibility whenever they are being violated, one way or the other. You see, the case of the Farotimi is another violation of fundamental human rights. You understand me? So if there is something of that nature, what the law says that you will notify that person. You understand me properly? You cannot just bang on him, arrest him unlawfully. You understand me? So what is going to happen is that the arrest of Barrister Farotimi is illegal. It's totally wrong. You understand me? Even if he writes something that is not properly done or it's not good for some people, the best is to first of all notify him, let him know that what he does was very, very wrong, and if there is any apology to that effect, that thing could happen even before the arrest. So they just went ahead and arrested him and even handcuffed him in the public, which is totally wrong. So there is a freedom of expression in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, especially Chapter 4 of the Constitution, that center on the fundamental right of the people. So That is violated of fundamental human rights. So what they do is totally wrong. And such a thing must not continue. So everybody should know his right and know how to fight that right in Nigeria. So something happens sometimes, the police will just arrest you unlawfully and you will not even know where to go. That is totally wrong. It's totally wrong. When you are being arrested by the police, you have to follow the due process by writing either a composition to the appropriate quarters and some other thing like that. So you seek redress. So you don't say because you are afraid of, you don't have money to go to court. No, you have to exercise your right first before any other thing. You understand me? So that is exactly what I will need to say for now.
Okay.
Know your right and know how to exercise, empower yourself and know your right and how to execute that right in a proper manner. Thank you very much.
Kenny, we'll come back to you on that. Now, I'm told that Yahaya has been able to reconnect with us. Now, Yahaya, I asked you a question earlier about the lawyer Dele Farotimi's arrest, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it, especially the legal basis for his arrest, which actually remains questionable. What does this say about the rule of law in Nigeria? Because even former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, in his statement about the arrest, described the situation as an attack on democracy.
Oh, yes. I think this is quite embarrassing for the nation. I think there is nothing wrong in one being accused of a wrongdoing, and there is need for the institutions of the state that are connected to the process of to judicial process, to prosecution, to follow the due process. An accusation of that magnitude does not actually warrant arresting a person in the public, handcuffing him, and project him in the public as a criminal when it's an entirely civil matter in which he can be invited to police. He can give statement. He can be arraigned before the court of law. He can enforce his fundamental human rights of freedom to right to freedom of fair hearing, and so on and so forth. But the whole matter, the whole processes that actually led to the arrest of this, long-standing legal luminary. It's portraying, the state institutions, particularly the police, as one that had already taken side on this very particular matter, and that somebody who is a long-standing legal practitioner, a non-person accused of civil wrongdoing, should be treated like a criminal. And this is a situation of even predetermined justice, and this is quite embarrassing. And this is for somebody who is a citizen, a very known citizen, a professional, a serious citizen. What do you say of an ordinary citizen, a poor people in the countryside? How then will the state treat him? It's quite embarrassing. I think the whole matter here is that judiciary must have to come up clean as far as these issues are concerned. The police must learn to understand that they are nothing but public institutions, funded, created by the law, funded by taxpayers' money, and loyal and expected to be loyal to the people. To loyalty in the sense that they are established to protect the public, not to undermine the rights of the public. And that I think what is happening in Nigeria today is all as a result of the low-key activism, if you like, of civil society organizations. Democracy is given, is entrenched, is installed, but its sustenance lies in the hands of the people. And the civil society organizations are expected to play a leading role in actually limiting the excesses of government.
Okay.
Practices such as this will amount to undermining democracy as a framework of governance. The whole beauty of democracy is undermined by practices such as this.
All right, now speaking of undermining democracy, I think even the journalists are not, free from this as well, because the Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, that's SERAP, and Nigerian Guild of Editors, have actually raised concerns, about the, increasing repression of journalists. So I put this to you, Kenny. What impact is this having, on press freedom and democracy in Nigeria?
Well, what I can say about this one is that because if there is no press freedom in Nigeria, there will be a big calamity in Nigeria, because it's the journalists that actually let the public know exactly what is going on in Nigeria. And if there is no press freedom, there will be a very big chaos in Nigeria. So, and we are saying this is democracy. Those people that is in power, it is people that elected them into power. And the people are their master. They are not the master of the people. So that is the more reason why a government should allow press to express themselves comfortably, independently, so that there will be no problem in Nigeria. So when we are talking about democracy, if we suppress the press, what is going to happen to the people? How are they going to know exactly what is going on in Nigeria, in the political circle?
Yeah, who depend on the press for information and all.
That is what I'm saying. If we decide to suppress them, like what happened to Barrister, we are talking about now. So they will be afraid, and this is a democracy. It's not a military regime. It is only a military regime that you cannot say one or two things against them. You understand me? So we have freedom of expression, as it reflects in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the press must be free, and the people must be free to say whatever they want to say in line with the Constitution. Because when we are saying that people should be free to say a lot of things, they should be guided. You cannot just say anything that will affect some other person or that will defame some other person. I think you understand what I'm saying. So when let's do whatever I want to do constructively, so that anybody will not be biased. So the press freedom must be ascertained in Nigeria, especially now when everybody is very, very painful with the arch economy experience everybody is experiencing now in Nigeria. So, but whatever you want to dish out, whatever you want to write, whatever you want to say, must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's hear, about the press freedom from Yahaya. Yahaya, now the data from the Center for Journalism Innovation and Development, as the CJID, shows that 110 press attacks were reported in 2024 alone. Now, why do you think attacks on journalists are escalating?
What obtains in Nigeria is a complete scenario of press repression, and it's an attempt by the government to autocratize democracy. Just like my colleague in the studio mentioned, there won't be democracy without free press. Free press is the backbone of democracy, and that press repression is akin to authoritarianism. No democratic government, no people in a democratic government will tolerate press repression against the press. Democracy, exists in cycles. The cycle of election is one where people express their preferences and their choices by voting people into government. That does not stop. It didn't stop. At that point, the power of the people doesn't stop there. It also continues in keeping government accountable for its action and inactions. And to do that, the press is the most reliable institution that provides people with the most reliable information upon which the people act to call government to order. And that government actions and inactions are being checked constantly with the flow of information from the press. So if the indicators of press repression suggest that the press freedom is low, then of course, democracy and democratic governance in any of this scenario is actually can be described as a democracy that is more authoritarian in nature. So in Nigeria, indicators are very bad about press freedom. We have seen instances where press men are attacked. We have seen instances where a whole press house is being cracked down upon. We have seen instances where unnecessarily, press platforms and media outfits have been dragged, have been bullied by government across levels, and this has already sent fears, and anxiety.
Well, some have also, cited that, the political elites actually use laws like the Cyber Crimes Act and also the NBC codes to actually, target critics, activists, and journalists as well.
That's right. That's right. I think these codes, the NBC codes, the cybersecurity laws, and what have you, the state, the elites in government, or the governing elite, if you like, always have the instrument of the law at their disposal to manipulate it to suit their interest. And what actually stops them from doing that is the active civil society organization. So if an individual, whether a journalist, whether a media outfit, whether a group, just like setup, is been accused of flouting a law or a regulation or a code, there should be due judicial process to be followed to determine, and it's not for the government to determine whether or not an individual or a platform has actually flouted the law. It's the judiciary. But here in the Nigerian context, the greatest fear being entertained is the apparent lack of independence of the judicial institution. And we have seen instances where, for instance, cases that the state and the government have interest. We have seen processes and judicial procedures taken clearly, to favor the state and their agents against individuals, against platforms, and against organizations that are involved in the promotion and protection of fundamental people's fundamental rights. So, just like you said in the background, a whole overhaul and reform of the judicial system is central to the entrenchment of fundamental rights in the country, and that civil society organizations must also be very active, alive to their responsibility, and they must also be courageous, because what is happening today in the Nigerian civil society space is that.
Okay, well, we seem to be having network issues with Yahaya.
Yeah.
Now, let's come back to you. Now, aside, these laws that actually cited, that's the cybercrime law and also the NBC code.
Okay.
I would like to hear your view on the growing use of strategic lawsuits against public participation. That's also called SLAPP. SLAPP, to silence critics, because, it is believed that it is used by authorities and also influential people, to censor or even intimidate, critics, activists, and journalists, especially with, the cost of legal defense, so that, they step down their defense or also abandon their criticism and also their reportage. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's still the same. What they are doing is nothing to call than the violation of fundamental human rights. You see, the suppression of freedom of, freedom of speech. Because when they know that whatever they do, they are the government, they have veto power to do and undo. That is the reason why they are doing that. That is the reason why they are running after the journalists, after the activists, that is not in line with their objectives, is not in line with their mandate. So they will use their power, their governmental power, to suppress them, knowing that they don't have enough capacity to face them in court because of the cost you mentioned earlier. So that's the reason they are doing that. So all this boils down to fundamental violation of fundamental human rights in Nigeria, and that's the reason why all this must be let a lot of people, our people, know that they must awaken to be able to at least fight for their violation of their
earlier, Yahaya actually, mentioned,
yeah.
The arrest and detention of minors, especially during the the End Bad Governance protests, recently. What's your take on the detention of these minors to the extent that, some of them were treated really poorly in detention centers?
That is totally illegal. It's total impunity. It is in the law that a minor must not be detained. Even if you want to detain a minor, somebody that is under 18, you cannot detain. You cannot take them to a correctional center with the adult. There is nothing the minor will do. You cannot, like what happened. They detain them with the minors in the reconsideration center. It's totally wrong. Taking them to court is totally wrong. That is violation of fundamental human rights, especially children. You understand? So what they do is totally, and they knew. That is why they quickly reverse back and actually make the proper thing they should have done in the first place to make correction. That is why the president ordered that those children must be taken care by the government. You tell me, they knew that what they did was totally wrong. And that is the reason why we have to address our police. I'm not saying we have a very good and a very good and functional police people, but we still have a bad earth among them. They should be trained and retrained and retrained. You understand me? So that they be able to respect the dignity of a human in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in line with the other instrument.
Okay. Well, we'll come back to, the security forces and, the challenges being faced, when it comes to them just after the break. Do stay with us.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us on the conversation. And we're still discussing human rights abuses and challenges being faced in Nigeria. We still have our guests with us. Kenny and Yahaya are still with us on the show. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, still talking about, this, we've been able to reconnect with Yahaya. Now, but before we come to you, Yahaya, I was actually going to ask Kenny about, because you did touch on security forces, and I wanted you to give us your take on, allegations of the military using excessive forces, such as during protests, in handling of civilians. Can you discuss the role of military in human rights abuses and also lack of accountability of their actions?
You want me to specify on the military?
Not just the security forces in general.
The police also, yeah. You see, what happens is that if there is going to be any protest, you understand me, naturally, the security guys should be notified. You understand me? What actually cause commotion in the long run is that when you don't even inform them, because when you want to go to protest, when you want to go on protest, you will know the beginning of the protest. You may not even know the end, what is going to close up the protest. That is why the the security, like police and other security, organization must be informed before any protest. It is then the right of the police is to guide you on the protest when the protest is on, to ensure that the hoodlum doesn't hijack the protest. You understand me? But what we have, we don't do in our organization, we don't do that. When we don't want to go out to any formidable and respective protest, the police will be notified to come and do their job in order to secure us, to guide us. So
and not to stop them from protesting.
Not to stop them from protesting. If you go in the right manner, the police will not stop you from protesting. You understand me? But they will rather support you, they will rather guide you, so that the protest will be able to be very smooth at the end of the day.
Okay.
But that's just the point. So the police has no right, because you have every right, in line with the Constitution, you have every right to protest. You have every right to gather. But mostly, the criminality aspect of it must be protected. That is why the police is very important to be, they should be notified whenever any protest is going on.
All right, now let's hear from Yahaya on, this same issue, the role of security forces, especially during protests. All right, so I'm told that Yahaya has actually, gone off. His network is really, really bad. But we'll try and stick with you still.
Okay.
Now, yes, still talking about this. Okay, so during protests now, we've heard of, security forces, especially during the EndSARS protests, years back, where security forces actually fired live rounds on protesters. Yeah. And we've seen that these security men have not been charged or even brought to book. So how can, civil societies like, yours push for, for accountability when it comes to these security men who have, decided to take laws into their hands, but nothing is being done about it?
Well, there is nothing much, we can do than to continue to represent the people, to continue to talk to the government, to do the right thing. When the violation of fundamental human rights happen in such manner, we continue to protect them, we continue to write petitions, we continue to, if at the end of the day, the government don't use to our call, then we take the case to court and get redress as appropriate. That is our responsibility for the people. When we know that things are not, government are doing something that that they are violating their fundamental human rights, the best thing is for us to seek redress on behalf of the people.
Okay, so now what about the, the role of the National Human Rights Commission, especially in addressing these sort of issues? Do you believe that they're sufficiently empowered, to hold authorities accountable for violations?
Well, yes, that is what they are supposed, that is their responsibility.
Because many would actually say that they're not doing their job.
That is their responsibility. But let me just remind you that, the National Human Rights Commission, they are directly under government, and they are not independent. So there's a little they could do to address the issue in a very rightful manner, because they are directly under the government. So there is a little they could do. But they are trying what they could do on their own. It is only that they cannot look at the NGOs, look at the way we operate. You understand me? At a certain point, they will not take whatever happens to court as appropriate, because they know they are directly under the government. Unlike us, that whatever happens, we have to face them, we have to fight them with whatever we have, and at the end of the day, take them to court.
But then who fights for human rights defenders like you?
Well, we fight for ourselves.
Who are bold enough to challenge?
We fight for ourselves. That is why we said the struggle must continue. We fight for ourselves because nobody is paying us. But because we fight for the fundamental right of the people, we always have a big challenge. But when that kind of big challenge, like suppression, like molestation, come, we handle it ourselves. And at the end of the day, we come, whatever you do that is right, that is in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, at the end of the day, the justice, the freedom will be a fatter. You understand me? Whatever we do is in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we cannot attack government unnecessarily. We will only criticize government in a very pleasant manner.
Well, there've also been reports, of the use of commercial spyware and monitor, to actually monitor people, not just even journalists and activists. That's state surveillance. What is your thoughts on, because even the calls that we make, most people will tell you that it is not safe. You pick up your phone, if somebody is listening to it on the other end, and then sometimes you go on your phone and you find out that, your phone has been tapped one way or the other, or your calls have actually been forwarded. So what are your thoughts on state surveillance in Nigeria, and how does it affect privacy and freedom of speech?
Well, what I will only say about that is that yes, they do monitor us, even the phone, the tap of the phone, letters, everything. So, but what I will only advise on that aspect, that whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say, make sure that you don't say anything that will incriminate you. You understand me? That will indict you or your organization.
So that's why they call it freedom of expression.
That's why they call it freedom of expression. When you want to make your submission must be very, very pleasant. There are many ways you can make your submission. There are many ways you can talk to government in a very pleasant manner, not abusive manner, not create a very, very, very bad critic. Okay, look at the situation of the country now. You understand me? Some people even say that one should not pray for Nigeria. But we are all Nigerians. We stay in Nigeria. So we should continue to pray for Nigeria. We should continue to pray for government. We should continue to pray for president. You understand me? For the restructuring. Yes, it's going. Everybody is feeling it right now. But we cannot say because of the pains. You understand me? That we don't respect ourselves in Nigeria. We don't respect our government, because when there is no pain, there is no gain. You understand me? So if you do it that way, any surveillance on you, any spy on you, will not hold water. If you write, take for example the civil liberty organization, just try whatever letter, whatever petition you want to come across. If you are able to read one or two of our petitions, either to the Inspector General of Police, either to the Commissioner of Police, you will find out that it's a very pleasant presentation. It's a very pleasant, submission. So that there is no way any spy, any government will indict you or anything. It is when you criticize government in a very bad manner, or you talk to them in a very bad way, that you can say, oh, look at that organization, look at that journalist. You understand me? So you must be fair. We know that the country is not, the economy is very bad. But at the end of the day, I'm sure that God will take good care of Nigeria, and at the end of the day, the hand we justify the means.
Okay, so but then, on Monday was, International Day for Human Rights,
Yeah.
So what is that day's significance in a country like Nigeria, where so many people have actually said that, there are actually violations, violations are frequent and justice is denied? What is its significance for Nigeria?
I said earlier that the International, Day for Human Rights in Nigeria, in the world, is something, a food for thought for Nigeria. That celebration is to awaken the instinct of all Nigerians to empower themselves to be able to fight violation or abuse of fundamental human rights in Nigeria. They should learn how to do that, because a lot of Nigerians don't even care to know how to fight for their fundamental rights. And it's very, very important.
Don't even know their rights.
Yeah, they don't even know how to know their right, and they should be able to practice that. We have constitution, we have different instruments. People can study on their own, so that you know when your right has been violated unnecessarily. If you go to a police station, you don't know even to talk to police station. You don't know your right with the police station. The police station will detain you. They will ask you to go and bring money for what do they call it, to release you, to bail you out. Whereas bail is free. If you are bold enough, if you empower with if you know if you are knowledgeable in the practical activism, you will know how to talk to them that bail is free.
But in most cases, I think Nigerians are actually scared, especially, you gave example of, being arrested and, being, bailed. Most times, even if it's written there, in the station that bail is free, they still demand, a certain amount, for services rendered in most cases. And most Nigerians have actually seen what happens to people who do not actually pay.
Yeah.
It's the same way, when you're stopped on the road as well, by security forces and asked to identify yourself and asked some certain questions. Like a friend of mine 2 weeks ago, he ended up sending 100,000 naira to, one of the security forces there for doing nothing.
That's nothing.
To a private account.
That is nonsense. Let me tell you something. That is the reason why education is very, very important. You understand me? And it's not only that you are educated. The activation, the practice of that knowledge is what they call experience. You understand me? We cannot be walking in the street of Lagos State or in Nigeria without knowing your fundamental right. You understand me? You cannot be a master, a doctor in Nigeria, a prof in Nigeria without knowing your right. If you don't know your right, a police, a security guy will continue to slap your face, because they are sensitive. The policemen, the security guys, they are sensitive.
That is exactly what I'm still saying. Because in most cases, right, the person will be like, I'd rather just, give them what they want than actually fight for my right. Because we've seen incidences where, trigger-happy, cops have actually killed people on the spot. So they do that to, protect themselves.
Yes. That is the reason why I said all this boils down to being knowledgeable. You see, when you are knowledgeable, when you try as much as possible to know your right, to know your fundamental right. You understand me? When you experience, when you accosted a trigger-happy policeman, you will know the kind of words, the kind of speech that you say to such trigger-happy something. You don't need to confront somebody that holds guns. You don't need to confront them. You don't need to, what? Holding gun and their uniform is like a power. You understand me?
Okay.
So it's like a power. Sometimes they stagger when they hold that gun. So when you want to address them, you address them politely. When it gets to the matter of something, you relax them. That is why information is everywhere. You talk or you connect the next person to them. Don't drag anything with them.
Okay, now, well, we're actually about, we're winding down right now. So
Okay.
what are your hopes and expectations for the future of Nigeria when it comes to human rights? And what do you think that civil societies, the media, you know, international organizations can actually do to be able to shape, you know, the future?
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm very, very hopeful for Nigeria because the way we are going now, we are having more educated people in Nigeria, and all of us are now aware, some of us are now aware of their rights. You understand me? So at the end of the day, I know that Nigeria will survive at the end of the day. So my advice to people is, for now, is to ensure that they learn how to observe their fundamental human rights, how to fight for violation of abuse of their rights. You understand me? So at the end of the day, everybody will be happy. The security guy will respect the citizen, and the citizen will respect the security people.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. Kenny Abiola-Bakare, Chairman, Lagos State Chapter, Civil Liberties Organization, for, you know, joining us on the conversation this evening.
Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here.
All right, and would also love to thank Yahaya Tanko-Baba, Professor of Political Science, Usman Danfodio University, Sokoto, for joining us earlier and also speaking to us on this. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the show. Thank you so much for staying tuned and, you know, watching us from beginning to end. We'll see you again on Friday. I am Dashen Usman. Have a wonderful evening.